viewers here are really mad at Smart.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was
Smart,
again. I don't think anybody's indicting Fournier for this. You're right. He just showed up and didn't know anything.
It's not. It's sad.
Smart.
And
It's
embarrassing.
smart. It
Yeah.
was all Smart tonight. He was just such a. Can we talk about the play? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like that was worse than JR in the finals. Really, I know it was a
No,
10 times
come
smaller
on.
situation.
Yeah, it
How
wasn't that
could you?
bad.
How could you
Wasn't
be
that
on?
bad, but it was close.
How could you be on defense 1 second and think the shot clock that's on the clock is your clock?
Because
It's
the
just
ref
unfathomable.
The refs take 12 minutes to freaking decide the jump ball. I don't know. I'm with you.
But
At
like,
the
where
time,
did his mind go?
I mean,
I was surprised, but I don't know. Stuff
what's
like
so
that.
funny is I'll kill Smart for so many things that he does. That's just one where it's just brain cramp, which I think everybody has from time to time.
He's
You know,
so locked in. I could see that. Yeah.
so
It's
like,
not one of those, like you
right,
lost.
like,
It
he drives me
a
nuts for a million like
Shaqtin' a
basketball
fool.
decisions. Yeah, it was just that was just dumb.
Well,
It
Kemba was
happened.
like, yo, like, you know that, like, the thing that I didn't like about it was Smart, like, didn't be like I didn't look like he was like my bad after. It
No,
looked
he
like
went on,
was,
took
like,
a 3 after.
Well, I mean, like, no, immediately after. I mean, I wasn't.
No, he was
trying
like
to
he was
read
arguing with
that.
Kemba. He was like, no,
No,
man.
I
Yeah, he
think
was
he
arguing
thought-
with Kemba about it.
I think he thought he was right. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think it sunk in for a little. So in
Right.
the immediate aftermath, I think he was making a case. He actually thought he was right, and then probably
I feel like
That might have
I
been
feel like
Scal's best call.
I read his mouth when he said they were going to do the same thing, but I think Kemba trying to tell him, no, that clock is for them, not for us. Like I think he saw
Either
it as
that-
like, loose ball, whoever gets to it first can score, and in less than a second gets the shot. But it's obviously
Right.
wasn't-
Either that or he thought like once they got it, it was just going to be a shot clock violation, so
Yeah,
he just
argued
threw
with
it.
Kemba.
definitely, yeah. But he was arguing his point. And like
Yeah,
I said,
he was like,
people
dude,
are mad
you're
at me for
wrong.
defending Smart. Like, trust me, I'm not a Smart defender. I was just in this particular case, just brain cramp. It happened.
you know
but
what,
like,
though? You
they didn't
gotta-
lose
but
the
it-
game because of that one play. I don't care if people are tweeting like, "Oh, the air went out of everybody."
Yeah,
I don't think
seriously.
they lost because of that. I just don't think he played a great game.
It was a tricky situation because if you were on defense in that spot, you probably would like the play would stop in that same situation on defense, but I don't think it's the same thing on a jump ball. Like if you got the ball on defense after like an air ball or something, they would have reset the play. But in this situation, like it was a new possession, so the shot clock reset.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it wasn't
Anyways,
like it was
It
2
wasn't
minutes
just,
left in the fourth quarter. You know, like that's when you really have to zone in and realize the situation before the tip.
no, but yeah, it's gonna end up on Shaqtin' a fool, like one of those stupid things. Like Scal was like, "What are you doing?" I think that's what everybody watching at home was saying, and obviously everyone's pissed at Smart.
Scal
I thought
was late.
Smart, he made some other mistakes too. Like in the first half, he had an easy lob to Rob that he missed, and he put up an ugly floater that missed. Like you have Rob like rolling to the rim, just throw it up to him. He will catch it and dunk it in. It's like the easiest 2 points in all of any sport you can think of. It's like the easiest way to get points. And then late in the fourth, he did that like stupid like no look behind the back pass that like was not even
But-
remotely close to accurate, and that was
All
a
of it.
turnover. Yeah, it
high
was-
degree
it was
of
just
high degree of
sloppy.
difficulty shots as well. Even ones that went in, that lefty bank shot on the drive late in the game there, where he switched to the left. Really tough shot, but a horrible shot, and one that he's going to miss 80% of the time. This was one of those games where it felt like it's again when he misses all the threes, shoots low percentage, shoots too much, makes a few dumb. He's like it's the worst of the worst of the worst from Smart, and it's magnified in these games. And again, we reached that magic barrier. I think 13 shots is the is that cutoff line for Smart. When he shoots more than 13 times, their record is freaking abysmal.
Yeah, I mean 6 for 15 and 0 for 6 from 3. So streaky from 3. I mean, some nights he goes like 7 of 10, and then tonight he goes 0 for 6. Like, those really is like that is the difference in these games. I mean, it's it doesn't take a scientist to realize that the more shots you hit, the better chance you're going to win. But it's just the crazy how streaky he can be with the shooting. I mean, he's unreliable in that sense, and that's why people. I think a lot of people, not just in this room or in this chat, but I think a lot of people were like, they were like okay with the idea of Marcus Smart being traded at the deadline. I think they like kind of accepted that there was a possibility and they were going to like move on from it, and it didn't happen. But I mean, it could still happen in the offseason. I think a lot of people are going to be okay with it.
Well, I'll get Bobby and Josue's opinion because we talked about this on the chat a little bit before the game. I personally had really prepared myself for Marcus Smart no longer being a Celtic. And again, I'm a vocal critic, so it's, everyone would be like, well, duh, like you're not a huge fan to begin with, but I recognize his value. I just think he is a pretty average player that we've vastly overrated. And I was ready to move into a different realm to get a more dynamic player, playmaker, scorer. I was all set for the Aaron Gordon thing, and I was ready to do that deal. And now that he's here, I'm like struggling with it even more because I'd gotten used to the thought of moving on. You're in a really tough spot here, not with Marcus. You missed a chance to trade him, which means now you're almost held hostage, having to re-sign him, possibly to re-sign Fournier, or risk getting nothing in return. And the worst thing you can do in the NBA right now is overpay for the middle class. And the reality is, this is what Smart is. He's a middle class player. He's probably a bench player who you're going to have to pay potential, premium money to this offseason. And so you had a chance, if you weren't going to go forth with Marcus and give him that deal that he's going to look for in the offseason, to have cut. But according to Ainge, it was never on the table. He's going to be a Celtic forever. So, I mean, this is smart. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, no, I think they hold him. There's a lot of value there. And I agree with that. I think the Celtics, they found him very valuable. And I don't think that what was on the table or the names that were being out there, I don't think they thought that Marcus Smart was worth that. And I just don't was Aaron Gordon the one that's going to make it happen? I mean, that's what the reports were saying, right? I think it was Buck or various reports, but that was the one that seemed like sort of a given, right? Or was it the Kings and Harrison Barnes? I mean, I probably favor Harrison Barnes higher than Aaron Gordon, but I mean, I just don't think realistically the Celtics were willing to pull the trigger for guys like that. I think they can get someone better, or try, if that's the case, bring Smart back. And if a year or two comes down the road where they have to move him again, I know it's not ideal, but I just think the Celtics, maybe they do overvalue Marcus Smart too much. Maybe it's Danny, maybe it's Brad Stevens, maybe it's sort of their I don't know, their security blanket, if you will. They feel like this team will completely collapse without him. But I don't know.
I don't believe anyone's actually interested.
I'm not upset with the Celtics trading him because I just don't think it would have been worth what the players are getting in return. I don't think those players would have been game changers or give you anywhere near the same value you get from Marcus Smart on this team. Maybe it's not the same case for other teams. Okay, people can make that argument all they want, and it's fair. Sure, Marcus Smart is valuable on this team. You put him on another team, it's a completely different case. But that's the reason why he's still on this team, because he's very valuable here. And I think Danny Ainge and Brad Stevens.
Is he? That's kind of the existential question.
That's what
it feels like he is.
Is he? Is he that valuable?
Yeah,
depends
I think
what you
so,
value.
for now.
Depends what you value.
If you value defense at a high level, absolutely. And this year, the Celtics have been one of the.
Defense at a high level. Who is playing defense at a high level on the Celtics? Really, in the NBA.
Compared to other past Celtics teams in the last 2 or 3 years, this has been the worst. And Marcus hasn't been healthy. He hasn't played a whole lot of it.
Yeah, I don't think you can put it on Smart. Especially look what he did down the stretch against Zion. That possession where he had Zion shooting off the back of the backboard was pretty impressive. The way Zion had been playing tonight.
Name one player who did that on the Celtics tonight against Zion.
Yeah, and they need to make that switch earlier. So that one's on Brad. I was an advocate of trading him for Gordon, just because I think at this point, Gordon is probably a better defender because of his size and has more upside as a younger player, which I think is a swap you want to make. If you're going to be going a little bit younger here, if you want to, kind of reset the general age or track of this team, I think that one made sense. The problem is you do really lose something, not just from an intangible standpoint, but as a passer. He still really is the guy who gets the ball moving more than anyone else in this offense. You think of the assist percentage. You think of just his level of passing. I know, but you didn't like the raw blob there, but you had a couple others where you actually hit him in this one.
But Bob, let me ask you this: just because he's the best you have, does it mean he's actually good at it?
Yeah, he's extremely good at it.
Yeah, extremely good. If you stack him up against playmaking point guards throughout the NBA,
why does that mean that he's?
I'm saying you put him in the upper level of an extremely good passer among guards. I don't think so. I think he is on this team, but as far as NBA point guards go, he's not in the upper.
Well, that's part of
echelon of distributing guards. That's not his. He's
That's why you say he's more valuable to you than others. If
He is,
that's
but
the case there.
it's also the devil you know sort of thing. You're just used to it here, and you're used to extracting whatever things of value you think he brings you that nobody else in the league possesses.
Well,
but the reality is there's other guys who are chippy defenders. There's other guys who are decent passers. They don't all make boneheaded plays and shoot 36% from the field. Like I said, there's a balance there. You have to look at the whole picture. You can't just cherry pick some stuff, look at the deficiencies of this team and say he's the only one who passes. That's fine, but he's not an elite playmaker by any means. He's pretty good, and this team is lacking.
Right.
So yes, you're right. They need someone to do it, but that it could be someone else also. That's the thing. This idea that he's the only one that can do it, I think, is we just
but if you're swapping that out for Barnes, it's a short roll passer. That's about it. Gordon, who could never in a million years lead an offense, as we talked about at the deadline. Like, that's a tough flip to make in terms of like what you need now versus the timeline. I know Barnes has 3 years, so maybe that would have made a little more sense, but he wasn't available. So it was ultimately, would you do this for Gordon?
Barnes, I would have really considered it. I would have, but you know me, I'm high.
If it comes down to Gordon, like I think I'd begrudgingly say yes because I think there's upside there, but it was a ginormous risk to make, and I understand why they didn't do it because it was no sure.
I don't think it was ever on the table.
No, I think it was.
I mean,
you don't think it was? John, just on paper, you don't think that that's a better deal? Well, including Neesmith. Let's replace R.J. Hampton with Neesmith. You know,
I never, ever.
What's Marcus Smart's value to the Magic?
I never believed the losing team wanted Marcus Smart. It makes no sense. Wanted a Marcus Smart in a walk year.
So where was his name floating around from? It wasn't Boston.
Yes, it was Boston. It was. Trust me.
Wait, so.
There was no way. It made no sense to me. And then all of a sudden, reports started coming out late from Boston writers about, you'd be surprised how many teams out there are actually interested in Marcus. That was fed, okay? There's no way that didn't originate in Boston because it's trying to make it seem like, oh, okay, they're trying to drum up his value. Several teams want Smart. Well, maybe I should want me some Smart. I didn't even think about him. There's no way that was real because, as Jimmy said, it makes no sense. What does Orlando in a teardown rebuild want a guy in here who they have to pay real money to next year when they're trying to sell away other veteran players? You're getting rid of Vucevic and Gordon to welcome in Smart? What are we talking about? That's ludicrous. Ludicrous.
Yeah,
you're getting rid of all-star level veterans to swap it out for a bench guy?
You're making it sound like he was.
Wait,
out
so
to
you think the Celtics wanted to offer Smart over Neesmith and whatever?
I think the Celtics recognizing that they really did have almost nothing anybody wanted because nobody wants Neesmith or Romeo and the picks are low. So there's really nothing. The only theoretical tradable asset on this team is Marcus Smart. So you had to make it appear as if Marcus Smart had value. It had value beyond the Celtics. And so I think that name started getting thrown around to see if there was a little buzz to it. It ended up not being the case. I think the reason the Celtics didn't make a trade is because nobody wanted any package that they were offering. Nothing. And that's why they didn't make a trade. Not Danny didn't decide to trade Smart. No way is that what happened. No way.
Right.
I mean, we'll never know. I feel like it's the other way around.
I'm just saying practically
I
speaking.
think Bobby gives us like
I think if there was
almost like the delusional Celtics fan that thinks like Marcus Smart is a guy that's
and Danny at the end said, "I will not let him go."
Yeah, and like trading him is like
I understand
trading
that.
Marcus Smart is like the what's that game that what is wrong with me? Jenga. Like the Jenga piece that if you pull Marcus Smart out, the entire thing's gonna collapse on you. Like again, I understand we all like Marcus Smart for the same reasons, like his intensity, like he, has been here from the beginning. He kind of like it feels like he appreciates being a Celtic and all those things are great. But at some point you have to do, if you're Danny Ainge or whatever, you have to do what you think is best for the team and bringing in players. And it might be that, as good as Marcus Smart is and great of a leader he is and whatnot, it might just be time to, go your
I felt like it
ways.
was time. Yeah, I felt like it was time. His value, whether you think it was high or low, it's gonna go lower the closer you get to free agency. There's no doubt about that.
The thing I don't like is just the people who act like Marcus Smart is untouchable because like he's Marcus Smart, not taking into consideration that he just doesn't help you in a lot of other ways, like in a lot of ways that are the reasons that you're not winning. Am I going? Okay, I'm going Big C right now. I've pretty much said most of my point.
Follow
But-
Jimmy Toscano. I want everyone to do
Okay,
it.
yeah, follow me for sure. But what I'm saying is, with Marcus, we all get why he's valuable. The winning plays, the hustle, what it means to be a Celtic. All those things are great. But at some point, you have to say, okay, is he enough?
When's it start to
take
decline?
exactly, and is he enough to take the Celtics where we want the Celtics to be right now? Josue busted. We got him, folks.
Oh,
I
man.
waited to do that to nab you.
Yeah.
You did it on purpose.
And I think there's more. Although there's still people like Bobby, and there's still fans who are like Marcus Smart means way too much. And even though Bobby has seemed to come around at least in some ways, there are a lot of fans out
No,
there
I'm
that
completely torn. Yeah.
are now coming around on it, and still are torn. It's difficult, but I think they all understand that. Like, listen, if you can flip Marcus Smart for a guy that fills a bigger need, and then you can find a guard, in the offseason that a pass first type guy or a guy that specializes in defense, they are out there. Marcus Smart is a great defendant,
Right.
a great defensive player, but in a league where defense is becoming less and less and less important by the game, by the minute. I mean, every game, these games are going 110, 120 points. And if you're one guy, there's only so much really you can do.
Right.
It'd be great to have a team, great to have a lineup of 5 guys that just switch and play defense. They don't exist. The best players in the NBA are all offensive-minded players. Again, it's great to be good on defense, but you ask any coach in the NBA, they'll take good offense over good defense any day of the week.
It's like right. Celtics fans are like, that guy, this kid who grew up in Southie or somewhere. It's like, I never been outside of Boston. I never want to be outside of Boston.
No reason to.
There's no reason to leave here. Like there's a bigger world than Boston, guys. It's not just,
Is it Gordon though?
I'm just saying there are players out there, guys.
Again, this isn't.
We're sitting here. Look, let's look at it this way. We're sitting here talking about like the value of Daniel Tyson, Tristan Thompson, and some friggin' dude off the bench grabs 25 boards on them the other day. Like, there's guys out there that do other things. Like in the league here, that's like these aren't the only players here. You can move past them. We don't have to hold on to them so dearly.
But you don't go
all the time.
And they're everywhere.
You don't have to panic just because the season's not going your way. I just don't think.
Yeah, that's exactly what you guys didn't want to see at the deadline.
Hold on, Bobby. You still have a year left on that deal. You still have obviously that favorable contract that you can flip. So why not take that into the offseason and see what's going on? I mean, listen, other teams are going to be in different positions than they are right now. Why flip Smart right now, shut the whole thing down when they're trying to make a push into the playoffs and see what they can squeeze out of this team? I know it doesn't look great right now, but I just don't think you panic and trade Marcus Smart. Now, for people who ready to see Marcus Smart out the door and, you're looking for other guys to step up here, Peyton Pritchard, he's got, future Celtics point guard written all over him, whether he's a starter or whether he's the first one off the bench. I mean, I just think we can all agree that he has a bright future in that role for the Celtics. So obviously, I think once upon, sooner or later, whether it's Marcus Smart or whether he stays or whether he's not in Boston in the next 2 or 3 seasons, I think Peyton Pritchard is going to be more than ready to take the reins or take that part and becoming the team lead distributor. But in the meantime, I'm telling you, man, Marcus Smart, whether it's an all-star or someone close to it, you couple it with younger players, draft picks, you put together a package deal to get someone else that's better than Aaron Gordon for sure. No question.
Peyton Pritchard's never going to be any. Peyton Pritchard's fine with what he's doing, but he's not.
I think we're all over the place.
For being a distributor, he's going to be a top distributor for this team for sure. I don't know whether he's a starter or not. I don't know, but he will be.
Josue just summed up like some Celtics fans who like they look at guys and they make them out to be way better than they are. I'm not saying Josue is one of those people,
but you guys are making them way worse to be than you. No one wants Smart around the league, really?
I don't think a losing team does. No.
There are only certain teams that he makes sense for. Yeah, winning teams. He's a guy that if you I think
winning teams don't have the money.
Marcus Smart,
yeah, but everything you guys have said about
Smart is coming off the bench on a good team as like the first guy off the bench, playing multiple like guard positions and giving you a spark, giving you some energy.
I don't think that's true at all.
How is that not true at all?
So listen, you can look back at Smart's whole career in Boston and say the things you guys have said about him. And would you consider Smart's Boston career a failure?
I think Smart has been a really pretty decent role player that we have built up into some legend that
Yeah,
is
because
not
of the
real.
results. It's
He's-
not about the
he's a
stats. It's about the
pretty-
results.
He's a pretty good player who does some things that you can't quantify.
Situational.
It's
Bobby,
fine.
he'd be coming off the bench if Gordon
He's a
Hayward
bench.
resigned.
He's
He'd
a
be coming
bench
off the
player.
bench.
That's fine. Bench players
I
are
know. Why
important.
would you
I know.
It's not like an insult or something. Like, okay, so he's a 6th man or whatever. Like, why is that such a bad thing?
Exactly.
Because
Because
also-
we
man,
talk
also-
about him like
he's also one of the-
he's the
he's
MVP.
He's also
when you're trading
the
6
Defensive Player
men,
of the Year candidate, right? You guys never mentioned that, right?
If
He's also
you're
made 2 of those teams, right?
I
Right?
think
You guys
that's
don't mention that, right? He's also
I
helped his team win plenty of playoff series in the playoffs when it matters most.
He's been
You guys don't
huge in the
mention that, right?
playoffs.
He's just a role player, right? Come on, man. You
Of
guys
course
are-
he is. Joe Sway, there's nothing wrong with him being a bench player or the 6th or 7th best player on your team, but let's call it that.
Untouchable.
That's it. If he's your 6th or best 7th player on the
Who's calling
team,
him an
that's
all-star?
a
Who's
guy
calling him a
that you
superstar?
can
No
live
one's calling him
without.
No one's calling him a superstar. No one's calling him an all-star. No one's calling him, you cannot trade. I never said that. No one's ever said that that the Celtics can't ever trade Marcus Smart.
So
We just didn't want to see Aaron Gordon come in return. Like, what's wrong with that? I don't understand.
So, like, yeah, that's the thing. I look at that
You
trade
want
and
Aaron Gordon here? Is Aaron Gordon going to win the game tonight for you? Is that what you like? What are we talking about?
isn't that how you handle trades? Like, if you have to look at it for like an hour and be like, I don't know, do you
Right.
trade like your franchise
Also,
cornerstone
2 days
defensive
later.
player for? Like, it was too hard of a decision. It really was, and I think you're wrong, John.
Cornerstone. What are we talking about?
He was just first team all defense. Does that not matter?
All-star. I'm not saying none of that. Okay.
He's a
Like,
No, I'm
nice little
saying cornerstone
player.
defensive player. So
It's not even about Smart.
is
it's
everyone
not
a
about-
first team all defense overrated because they don't score and they
Thank
don't shoot
you.
well?
that part. Got him,
For
Bobby.
me, it's not about Smart versus Gordon. Would you do it? It's just like be
But that
open
was
to
the only
the
deal
idea
out
of.
there.
It's Rudy
Allegedly,
Gobert.
yeah,
Or
listen, I'm not
He's
saying
the
they,
best player on the
needed to
draft.
trade him. I'm not saying they need to trade him at the deadline. I'm just saying be open to the idea that he is
We
an
are.
expendable player. Not
We're
you,
mad
but
over
just
that idea.
everybody.
We just
People.
don't love
Guys,
Aaron
guys,
freaking Gordon. Like,
if he were a better caliber player, okay, then you wouldn't be talking about him in trades right
First
now.
team all defense last year. Giannis.
We understand
Davis,
that, and Derek
Simmons, Gobert,
Jeter won
Smart.
Derek Jeter won 10 Gold Gloves, and he was the worst shortstop in the league. Okay,
John.
it's a freaking award. It's a designation by media members. It doesn't matter. We've seen
John,
him.
You're just talking about Marcus Smart right now because you're salty about what we saw from Fournier, and you're thinking, man, here comes like Marcus Smart has turned into the ultimate scapegoat for every single Celtics
Now
loss.
That would be.
Even when he wasn't out there, people were talking about Marcus Smart. Like, I don't get it, man.
Joe Sway, I love the fire, and I swear it's great. But honestly, like, if you think I invented my Marcus Smart take tonight watching Evan Fournier, you haven't been listening to me for the last
No,
4 years.
you're using it as like, oh man, the Celtics missed out on a huge trade. Who's the huge trade? You
Not
even said
missed
it wasn't Aaron Gordon. So what's the alternative?
Not missed out. My grievance is if Smart was really on the table, and if Smart was on the table and we pulled it back, I think it was a mistake. Number two, I don't actually think it was ever on the table. So because the reality is,
Aaron Gordon. Who's the mistake?
I think so.
All right, you can watch him rock number 50. We'll see how great he looks for the freaking Nuggets, and I'll get you a jersey. There you go. You can rock that.
I think there's a real case with these bad teams, and the Kings 100% think this because I know for a fact that when the Kings had a chance to offer him an offer sheet, and then he went on to have a couple really good years and got better for Boston after that, the Kings were kicking themselves because they could have had him for $13 million a year, and they decided not to go in on that. So there is real interest in him around the league.
You're talking about Smart?
Yeah.
So one of the worst.
No one offered him anything in free agency.
One of the worst run franchises in the history of sports is mad about that mistake.
No, but that's why bad teams want him. They think he can create something in those places, and Orlando's one of those teams.
We went through this already, and they basically told him, "Hey, man, go find your deal if you think you've got a better one."
So you don't think that a team who had a guy that was demanding a trade, saying I'm done, I'm not playing here anymore, was going to pass up an opportunity to take a guy like Smart who could rev up the young team, be a leader there, stay long term? He could stay long term in Orlando.
The reality is Smart and players like him have negative value these days because it's the worst. The worst value in sports is the overpriced middle class.
I know, but what's the value of Gary Harris, who's on a 3-year deal, making like 14 million a year.
Well-
RJ Hampton, who's like, I love him, but he hasn't shown anything
Smart
yet,
over
and a
Harris all
2025
day.
pick.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, I don't think it's ludicrous to think that Boston could have had that for Smart. And you can debate it either way, but I think it was there.
I don't think so. But again, that's I guess neither here nor there.
This is a good description of the Marcus Smart debate. A lot of differing opinions, a lot of fires.
Oh, that's been the face of the
player.
show for 7 years.
He's a polarizing player. I mean, there's a lot of people on
Yeah.
both sides of the fence. My take on Smart is this.
We haven't had one of these in a while.
My take on Smart is this, and I'll leave it at that because I don't want to just keep beating the same horse over and over. If that's the saying, I forget. But I think he gives you a lot of good things, but I also think, there are games where you just want to rip your hair out. And I think we've seen the best of Marcus Smart. He's a great defender. I'll definitely give him that. But I think he sometimes hurts you in a lot more ways than he helps you. And I also think that Celtics fans over the years, it's like the folklore of Marcus Smart has grown to this magnitude where he's
because there's been results though.
But those
He's
plays
not.
exist all over the NBA. Like that's the thing is like I don't think he's giving you something that you couldn't get from a number of other players around in the NBA. So if the opportunity is there where you can get an asset back or get somebody else that might help you in another way, then I think you do that.
He's a 230 hitter that makes some diving catches in the outfield and gets his jersey dirty, and fans love him. But that's what it is.
Again, you don't train him for an asset though.